welcome to WorldNet Daily Live. There they are. We need to stop him at any cost. That is the rhetoric that we keep hearing over and over and over again. And we're going to go through it today. There's some disturbing stuff coming out of a recent poll, and we're going to go through that by line here. Gentlemen, welcome. Hey, it's Josh and Brian, Matt Edwards.
What's up, everybody?
Yes, excellent.
The Bald Brothers.
There they are. They are. Anyway, we got we're going to go over some disturbing findings over a recent poll, including what people think about what is leading to all of this, these attacks on Trump. And this is what's really disturbing, is because the rhetoric, it's this gaslighting rhetoric thing. I hate, that term seems to be getting overused, but it really is this sort of like, no, I'm not doing it, you're doing it. And so we're going to get into that rhetoric and really focus on why we're here, where we're at, and where we're going. So let's get into this. There's an article, Joseph McKinnon over at The Blaze, right? He's got the article. He says nearly 3 in 10 Democrats polled said it would be better if Trump had been killed. Guys, straight off the headline, before we dive into the numbers, is that to be expected? What do you think, Brian?
It's not surprising. Remember that this is the same constituency that when polled during the COVID lockdown said that anyone who doesn't take the vaccine should have their children taken away and be locked up in concentration camps. The radical left is becoming more and more radical in their rhetoric and what they want to do. And you listen to what they say, that a third or more than a third think that Trump should have died. If you look at the poll, less than half actually think it was good that he's not dead. There's a big chunk in there that just doesn't know. There's a lot of. Yeah,
I was going to say let's start up the first line here. We clipped out a bunch here. When asked, 37% of people surveyed thought it was very or somewhat likely that the Trump assassination plot involved government agencies. So that was that like 37% that's a huge, a third of the respondents said, the government may have been involved in this. In some aspect, Josh.
Yeah, look, it turns out people do have a sense of what's kind of going on. The poll will reveal that we are definitely divided, but 37% of people surveyed thought it was very, that's pretty definitive, or somewhat likely the Trump assassination plot involved government agencies. People kind of already know the truth. And yet it does feel weird though, right? If we do know that, I guess everybody's kind of like, I guess we can't do anything.
Right. And what's interesting to note here is that it says the assassination plot. And so I'm wondering if the question was this about the first assassination attempt? Was it about the second assassination
It's about the first one.
Is about it all of it involved? This is about the first one.
Yeah, it's primarily the polling focused on the first one.
On the first one.
Yeah, okay. Because of Trump was shot.
Right.
The first one.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're saying that.
But then you've got this Ryan Routh guy who we know more about him than we do about Crooks. Yeah. And the more we know about Routh, the more this question becomes even more sinister when you think about how this guy didn't really have a well-paying, high-paying job, but yet he traveled in the world recruiting people to fight for Ukraine. He had his wife apparently worked at almost like a CAI cutout agency, it seems like. There's so many details here on that guy that it just begs that question to be asked. And so I'd like to see some more follow-up as all these details emerge. All right, let's go to the next point here, because we want to get through these polls here. A majority of respondents, now that's 54%, suggested Trump had used overheated language that might encourage some people to act violently. 35% blamed CNN and MSNBC. And 33% suggested that Harris was an inciter. But here, it looks like 54% are putting the majority of the blame on Trump's own language. Brian, when we think about trigger words and that sort of thing, this is the definition of, this is the culmination of that, right?
Well, remember, over the last 10, 15 years, we've been told that left-wing violence is free speech. When BLM or Antifa comes and riots, or when they, Ann Coulter goes to a college campus to speak and they riot and shut her down and scream at her and light fires. We're told that that's just people exercising their free speech, but they also tell us that right-wing speech is violence, that our rhetoric makes people feel unsafe. And I think this is the next step of that. They're saying that Trump's speech, Trump's rhetoric is as bad or worse as people literally shooting at Trump. That there's an equivalent. They're equivocating those two things, and I think it's just the evolution of where they've been going. They want to criminalize our speech while allowing their violence to happen unimpeded.
Yeah, and Josh, and Josh, this is so offensive when you really look at it, because what is it? What it's the equivalent of for me when I look at that is when they blame women for dressing in a cocktail dress and then they got raped that night. Oh well, she shouldn't have gone out looking that way. I mean, that's what it reads to me as.
Yeah, Matt. It's inverted like logic. It doesn't make any sense. That's kind of a normie position. 54%. Like, it's Trump. He shouldn't say these mean truths, and also the
expect
media
to live and expect to live. I mean, that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
And expect. Oh, he shouldn't talk like that and expect to just walk the earth. I mean, and be with his grandchildren. He shouldn't do that.
Do you ever feel like we're just not that far from the Colosseum in Rome? I feel like that sometimes, like people, we're so modern. And well, let's get to the next part of this poll here. I don't want to, give away the plot.
Yeah, well, here it is. So when asked which one played a role in specifically encouraging the assassination attempts on Trump, 45% blamed anti-Trump rhetoric, 41% blamed the media, 30% blamed the victim, that Trump's campaign, and 25% blamed Harris's campaign, and 18% for other reasons. It's interesting here that Harris is getting a really high number of blame here, because this first assassination attempt happened when Biden was still the nominee. So
I think everybody already knows she's president.
Is that must be it? I mean, I
can't tell what else would it be,
talking about the Roman Colosseum, people are still people. Human nature is still human nature. 800 years ago, King Henry II was frustrated with the Archbishop of Canterbury, his former friend, Thomas Becket. One day he got so frustrated, he said, "Will no one rid me of this troublesome priest?" And a couple of his knights took it upon themselves to take him literally, and they went and killed him in the church. After that, though, Henry expressed remorse and regret and did penance. If somebody actually takes Harris or Biden or the left-wing media seriously and succeeds, I don't know. I don't think they're going to express regret. They're just going to say, "Oh, he had it coming."
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's great points there, Brian.
Here's the next one, Matt.
Yeah, is this 17% of respondents said it would have been better for Trump to have been slaughtered on the green. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, to have been slaughtered on the green. 28% of Democrats answered yes. And that's what gives it. So 17 is the overall, and that's boosted up there by the Democrats.
Yeah.
So this
that's
is
dark. That's really dark.
Absolutely. And again, and that's what I thought. I thought that this poll was taken after both of them, so they were asking all these different questions here. But I think when you think of the state of our country, and that you have no problem with somebody dying simply because you don't like what they say.
Yeah.
Or I mean, it's not like they're pointing to his first 4 years and said, "Can you believe that he locked up all of those people and slaughtered them?" Like, I mean, they don't point to anything. There's nothing for them to.
They don't have anything to back up their murderous rage. They don't have anything.
That's because they consider our speech violence. The fact that Trump goes up there and talked about the China virus, or talked about his opinion of the country of Haiti, that to them is they think that's literally violence against people, and he needs to be stopped, or else he's going to kill again. It's a mental issue.
This Scott Rasmussen sums this up pretty nice, Matt.
Yeah, here. It is hard to imagine a greater threat to democracy than expressing a desire to have your political opponent murdered. Yeah, that's exactly it right there. I mean, that's the threat to democracy. That, we should just kill off our political opponents.
Remember how Vladimir Putin had Alexei Navalny, the opposition leader, arrested, and then eventually Navalny died in prison. And of course, all our media and all our politicians say that's awful, that's horrible, that's a dictatorship, that's authoritarian, that's evil. And yet half the country wants to do that to Trump. Only 28% of Democrats only want him to have been killed by an assassin's bullet. But I'm sure a great majority want him to be put in prison and then to die there. So what's the real difference here?
Right. Not much.
Yeah, not much. Exactly. That's exactly it. But the overall, the feeling that when, and I just saw this clip, we don't have it for this show. I just saw it this morning. Kamala was on Oprah, did an Oprah interview, and she went on she went on one of her word salads talking about unity and really wanting to bring people together. And I hear that and my ears say she's saying the correct words, but we know based on their actions that they have no interest in unity. They want conformity. They want you to acquiesce to their frame of mind, their ideology, their worldview. You must assimilate with the Borg or you will be destroyed. And we know that they want them to be they want us to be destroyed because they say it all the time. They talk about re-education camps. They talk about taking them out. They talk about whatever they're doing to Trump, they want to do to you. No one talks about Corey. I'm going to butcher his name, but Mr. Corey, the firefighter from Butler. I mean, they rabbit hole all of this stuff. Wow, we do have the clip. Should we listen to this?
Yeah.
They're loading it up. The producers are rocking. I love it.
We are an optimistic people. We are an optimistic people. Americans, by character, are people who have dreams and ambitions and aspirations. We believe in what is possible. We believe in what can be. And we believe in fighting for that. That's how we came into being. Because the people before us understood that one of the greatest expressions for the love of our country, one of the greatest expressions of patriotism, is to fight for the ideals of who we are. We are.
Oh my God!
Oh, for goodness sakes!
It's like saying
so
nothing,
as
she's saying something. It's just like. It's just hollow.
It's hollow. It's platitudes. It's like, let me just read off the inscriptions around the room. In God we trust. I mean, it's just, eat pluribus unum, and she looks at her, liberty. I mean, it's just, it's just the words floating around. It's incredible, right? It's absolutely incredible.
I half expected her to talk about time.
Were there screens behind them? Were those pop-up screens? In that clip, it looked like there was up in the rafters. It looked like when they did cardboard cutouts during COVID during the World Series. It looked like that. Like they can't even get real people to show up to her events. They have to use screens. Okay, well, I'm so glad you guys found that. Yeah, look at that. Those are placards back there.
Oh yeah, was this during COVID or something?
No, it was yesterday.
This was yesterday.
Oh, that's. Oh, you're so right. It's like.
Are they
let's make it look like this.
And are people logging in via Zoom or something? And this is supposed to be them.
Oh, dude, I've never seen that. That's so dystopian.
So fake.
And it's so fake. I mean, it's not even in the room, right?
Yeah.
It's clearly
somebody thought it'll look like there's so many people there.
Oh my God. What an absolute joke. And isn't Oprah Winfrey friends with Puff Daddy? I don't know. Well, let's move on.
Oh yeah, Monday show.
Everybody. He was friends with Trump until he ran as a Republican.
That's right. Yeah. Well, he's friends. I mean, it's Hollywood, right? Everybody hangs out with everybody. That being said, let's get into the rhetoric here, because that rhetoric, that word salad rhetoric, is crazy. But the White House press secretary, and I don't know who she's the press secretary for. It's probably just the building at this point. But she was up at the podium being asked about the rhetoric that's being flown around just a few days after this recent Trump assassination attempt.
Just to clarify, so you're saying that the president and vice president believe that former President Donald Trump should be toning down his rhetoric?
So I'll say this. President Biden has been clear-eyed about the threat that the former president represents to our democracy. He's been clear-eyed about that.
He's the threat to democracy. He's like...
Yes, the guy who was impeached twice by a partisan process, whose entire had the Mueller investigation hobbling him in his first term, who's been indicted however many times by partisan prosecutors who we know they're show trials, we know they're not real crimes, and now has been shot at twice or almost shot at a second time. That guy is the threat to democracy, and not the other side that's organizing all this.
Such a good point. I mean, when you paint the whole picture from the moment he come down the escalator to where we are today, like the threat to democracy, the threat to the power, he's the threat to the power structure.
Right. And remember that when they say democracy, they don't mean the entire American system. They mean their little core of it. It's the rotten apple of whatever's left of the post World War II liberal order that is controlled by their bureaucrats and their oligarchs and the administrative state, the deep state. That's their democracy. So when they talk about their democracy, they're not referring to us out here in Idaho or Oklahoma or Arkansas or Texas. It's not our democracy. It's their democracy.
Absolutely. So more on this rhetoric. Let's show this image here. This is a headline. This is they always hide it behind an opinion piece, right? There is no place in politics for violence. That being said, Donald Trump brings a lot of this stuff on himself. I mean, again, she shouldn't have walked out in that skimpy little dress. That's all I can hear now when I see a headline like that.
But it's also, Matt, it's so childish, right? It's like, when you teach your kids to apologize, you go okay, now say sorry to your brother. And they're like, I'm sorry that you did that to make me mad. Right. Yes. And this is so childish. The media is so ridiculous. They won't take a stand on anything because they don't have any principles any longer.
That's so true. Oh my God, that's so great. Any parent should know. If you're a parent out there, that line when you watch your kids say, "I'm sorry." Look, hey, I mean, as a spouse, I've been accused of saying that too. I'm sorry you took it that way.
I'm sorry for you.
Yeah,
sorry you feel that way.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Now, when it comes to Ryan Routh, we can get into him a little bit. The New York Times called him a crusader. Look at this headline here. The suspect in apparent Trump assassination plot crusaded for many causes. And keep this up for a little bit here because it says Mr. Routh has been a serial crusader for causes large and small, dating back to at least 1996. And then it goes on to talk about things. But right at the end there, that last line is this is what he wrote about. I want to show the world what compassion and humanity is all about. Brian, do you think that was going through his head when he was perched in the bushes for 12 hours? That what he's about to do is for compassion?
Well, quick thoughts. First, they used the word crusader. I was told that was Islamophobic. Second,
yes, you're right.
He's this really shows I think an inversion of morality in the leftist worldview. It talks about compassion and things, and he thinks he in that tweet I mentioned, he urged Biden and Harris to go visit the victims, like Corey Carpenter and his family, or the people who were injured, because Trump would never do that. Well, we know Trump does things like that. We know Trump cares for people. We know Trump, when he was president, visited Walter Reed Hospital to visit wounded soldiers. Trump, spoke to the families and met with the families. He did all those things. So where did Mr. Routh get this idea that this, things that, Trump would never do these things? And that brings me to my final point. I think they have this inverted morality where anything their side does is good and compassionate. Anything the other side does is evil. So, starting a war and prolonging a war over in Ukraine that's killing, who knows, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. It's damaging that country for generations to come. That's compassionate. But, trying to stop that war is evil. Setting up shop to try and assassinate the president, that's good and compassionate. I think we're losing any ability to have common ground with the left and, a place where we can actually discuss things, because they have a completely different worldview, completely different definitions of basic words. Like woman and man.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, like, when they've redefined our language so much so that they live in a parallel universe next to us with completely different rules. They have completely different rules about what they see. I mean, we could all look at the sky and see its color, and we know that for years we've called it blue. And they have now decided that no, blue is offensive, so we're going to call it pink. It's going to be pink. And that's how we will call it. And anybody that comes along and says it's blue is a fascist or a bigot or whatever we need to call them, but they're hateful people and they don't belong here. And so when you encounter these, there's a great Indian story, and it's about a tiger and a lion in the jungle arguing over the color of the grass. And the lion gets very upset. The king of the jungle gets very upset with the argument at hand, and tells the donkey that he can go off and be by himself, but the tiger is going to be banished. And the tiger was the one that was saying, hey, the lion king, he was wrong. And he goes, you're right, he is wrong, but you're the one that made the bigger mistake by arguing with him because you knew the truth. And we're at that stage now. And I know I butchered that story, but but we're at that stage now where when you encounter somebody that's insisting that woman is a man or that man is a woman, you kind of just have to say, okay, and just move along your day. I mean, there's nothing.
You're not going to convince them.
No, yeah. You're not.
Well, the one problem here is that the left still controls the legacy media. We call it legacy because it's been around for a long time. People used to trust it, Walter Cronkite and such. And so even conservatives still get a steady dose of propaganda from those leftist outlets, perhaps because they think that there's still some value there. I don't know. I remember Jesse Kelly years ago used to say that if the government or the media came out and started saying, no, the sky's not blue, it's green, was his example, that you'd end up in arguments with your neighbors who would insist that it was green because the TV told them it was, and everybody agreed. It's the emperor has no clothes.
Yep. Brian just drops knowledge, so you got to let it hang there and let it soak in.
The sky is not green. I'm going to say it.
Okay, good.
Loud and proud.
Good.
That's blue here, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to find that. Somebody made a great cartoon about the analogy that I tried to give you, so I'll find it and you guys can check it out. Okay. Well, here, Miss Hillary Clinton. We got to show this clip. This is the first clip. Her talking about dangerous rhetoric. Calling Trump a dangerous dictator here.
And I don't understand why it's so difficult for the press to have a consistent narrative about how dangerous Trump is. The late, great journalist Harry Evans, one time said that, journalists should, really try to achieve objectivity. And by that, he said, I mean, they should cover the object. Well, the object in this case is Donald Trump, his demagoguery, his danger to our country and the world, and stick with it.
I'm sorry. What is she watching? Who is she? I have to disagree with her. Isn't that what they always do? I don't know what she's talking about.
I think in the leftist worldview, if there's one voice that they don't control, then that they're outraged. They can control 99 of the 100 news outlets, and all those 99 are saying the same thing. But if there's one out there speaking the truth, speaking a different narrative, then they pretend like it's a monopoly that they have to shut it down. It's the very essence of totalitarianism, but they do it by portraying themselves as the perpetual victims. Like we need to stop these powerful and wealthy people from damaging our democracy by talking.
By having speech.
Yeah.
Yeah, which they want to ban. We'll get to that. We'll get to some of that stuff in a minute here. But you're absolutely right, Brian. They act as if, because here's the thing, they have to be on the defense all the time. Because if you're on the defense, then you get to like raise money, you get to rally people up. If you're constantly out there going and saying, oh, things are great, things are moving forward, we're doing all these great things, then people get complacent and you kind of lose, you kind of, everybody just sort of goes off on their own a little bit. And we know I've seen both sides from Trump, where he's, obviously now with the world the way it is, he's talking very negatively, but he's always speaking very positively about what could happen, what the possibilities of what could be, right? Unburdened by what has been. But there is a sense though that like, even though they are in total control, it's the same thing when you look at the LGBTQ plus agenda, where they keep saying that they are oppressed, right? Yet every June now for the past 3-4 years, every single major corporation in this country will change their logo to a rainbow flag. And then yet they still claim that they're oppressed and they're being genocided on a daily basis, when they are literally having flags flying at the White House and throwing up their tops, and nobody cares. So
yeah, they're in control as they scream about having no control.
Right. All right. Well, we want to give a little shout out, a little props here to Chris Cuomo. We're not giving him a pass on any of his buffoonery in the past, but he has a way of being able to convey, because he's got this New York street kind of attitude. He has a way of kind of like calling balls and strikes. And I think sometimes when he calls a strike for a strike, it's worth noting. So let's watch where Chris Cuomo currently is at. Maybe this should be a theme where we just kind of see where he's headed. Let's watch this clip.
I don't get it. That's why I reached out to Trump. I wanted to just say, listen, I'm really sorry that this is going on and it's being dealt with this way. Not because I'm in favor of his politics or what he says. I criticize him all the time. That's my job, and he deserves it. But he doesn't deserve this. A guy pointing an AK-47 at him while he's playing golf? And we take solace in the fact that the guy didn't get any rounds off. If I had been through what that guy's been through in the last 2 months, you would not know where I am. You would never see me on TV again. No way I would do that. I don't know how he does it. He's got kids, they're adults, but he's got grandkids. He's got a wife. People giving crap to Melania Trump, worrying about whether or not there was a plot around his husband. How could she not? People mock her. And then her husband has a guy pointed with an AK-47. Where are those people apologizing? That's what it's time for. We are playing a dangerous game with ourselves. He is not a despot in waiting. Okay? I don't buy it. You gotta care when somebody tries to kill somebody. I've told you this before, and I've learned the lesson so many times myself around the world. Either you care when anyone is hurt, or you'll never really care about anyone being hurt.
I almost believe him. I almost do.
Well, beyond the politics, there's something about Trump that is starting to rally people. Kind of a masculine energy, a throwback to, the America of, the founders and the pioneers and John Wayne, something that, is looking forward, wanting to build us. You're bringing Elon Musk on board. You're bringing a lot of the people from the Silicon Valley who are trying to innovate and build on board. You have Mark Zuckerberg. He's, praising Trump's reaction to the assassination attempt, if not, endorsing him or anything. I think people see the contrast here between a president, a former president, future president, who is courageous and brave and really is standing up for what he believes in. And obviously his opponent is afraid to go do interviews with even a friendly media.
It's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Brian. And, to Chris Cuomo's point there, talking about how, like, if he was going through what Trump was going through, you'd never see him again. And it really, like, can you imagine and we do it on this program. There's, you know, some of these other independent outlets and these, you know, folks behind sort of the right media that they don't do this enough either, although you do hear it. But can you imagine the news specials that would be going on almost on a weekly basis of tracking Trump? You know, if he was a Democrat, if he was their champion and he was under literal constant fire like this, and that yet he still steps out there on the stage, he still walks into those rallies, he still goes golfing, he still visits his children, he still is doing all of the things that you see him do at great risk to his life and to his family's life and to those people who are surrounding him. I mean, can you imagine? I'm going to go golfing with the president. Who's going to go golf with him? Who's going to be part of his foursome next time, knowing that there might be a guy in the bush?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, this is incredible. And if he was a Democrat, if he was the media's darling, we would have a movie of the week already. I mean, there was a movie I remember when the Waco thing happened, there was a movie of the week during the standoff. I mean, we were like 30 days in and they're like, let's make a movie about it. It's not even over yet. Right? I mean, we would see this constantly on television. And it's criminal. It's criminal what the media has done. They are truly the enemy of the people. Truly the enemy of the people.
And one of the key things they have to do, which we've kind of tried to highlight in this episode, is we say this too often, they must go and take away our ability to have speech, to say what we want to say. That's why you're going to see the attacks on Elon just multiply as we go forward. And they're not afraid to say what they think should happen. So they say, like, hey, maybe he can be arrested. I think Gavin Newsom said maybe he can be arrested. I don't know for what. And then we have a clip here of Hillary already. Our friend Hillary's back with more to say.
Let's watch this disgusting mess.
Just as Mueller indicted a lot of Russians who were engaged in direct election interference and boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence. Because
criminally charged.
Yeah, look at this comment from Mike Olson. Didn't Hillary leave her skin mask in a jar holding a door open at Epstein Island?
Good Lord.
Trump's biggest mistake was not putting her in jail.
Yeah, I mean, she's still around. She's still calling. She has no context of how that would happen within the law, right? And first of all, we're inundated with propaganda, and they're suggesting that, propaganda, but there's no standing law against propaganda. Otherwise,
they don't need law.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're in the post-legal era, right, where they're just gonna make dictates to take away our rights, challenging us to see how far we'll go, while they're taking them away.
Even down in Brazil, it was a judge who ordered Twitter X to be shut down. And do you think there's any judges in America, maybe in Hawaii, for example, who might be willing to issue the same sort of opinion, saying that, because of misinformation and hate speech, Twitter is hereby ordered to cease?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. I'm actually surprised it hasn't happened yet. Or at the very least, we've seen Apple take apps off of their platform. We've seen Google do the same, I think. So it all depends. It all depends on how far they think they can push. They push far and then they draw back and then they creep a little bit further and then they draw back and then they creep a little bit further. So it's that Overton window thing. It's like, if they can get this rhetoric out there now, then maybe in 2 years, after some horrific event happens, they go, well, I mean, we got to pat you down even when you go into the grocery store now.
It's interesting to look at where things were going after Obama and what interrupted them. Earlier we were talking about how the would-be assassin was involved with Ukraine and raising troops there. They were pushing for war leading into the 2016 election, and they expected Hillary to win. And I think this war would have happened much sooner had she won. And of course, it ended up waiting until Biden was in office. And the other thing is the shutdown on free speech. They already controlled Twitter. They controlled Facebook. They anything they didn't control, they did shut down. Parler, they blamed it for January 6th. And the Apple App Store, Google Play Store knocked it out simultaneously. And then Amazon Web Services, which was their host, knocked it out. So, no government mandate, no law, no judge. It was just all the big tech colluded to shut down this one avenue that people had for free speech. But then something unexpected happened. Elon Musk, richest man in the world, suddenly buys Twitter. And now people are saying the truth. And we're able to see these videos and see real-time stories that they would have otherwise shut down, like they did with the Hunter Biden laptop. And, I think this is an existential concern for them.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Brian, because you're right. They actually already did it. Just because Parler wasn't like the world's biggest social media site, it doesn't matter. It had a presence. It had enough spotlight on it that they had to take it down. So you're right. This thing has already happened. They already destroyed and criminalized, basically, without putting anybody in jail. They can just take your stuff away. And you're absolutely right. Okay. We had this funny clip here. People, if you're a Harry Potter fan, Hillary Clinton seems to have a striking resemblance here to Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter.
I don't have that clip anymore.
That clip.
We don't have it anymore. Okay, fair enough.
Well, to use your imagination.
Were you guys Harry Potter fans?
Matt, we do have the World Economic Forum clip, which is pretty good, and that's. Yeah.
Yes. We have to show this because this is absolutely creepy. I almost thought this was like taken from like an old like Ethan Hawke sci-fi movie or something. But yeah, watch this. This speaks for itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear Klaus, let me go back to the number one concern of the Global Risk Report: disinformation and misinformation. Tackling this has been our focus since the very beginning of my mandate. With our Digital Services Act, we defined the responsibilities of large internet platforms on the content they promote and propagate, responsible to children and vulnerable groups targeted by hate speech, but also a responsibility to our societies as a whole. Because the boundary between online and offline is getting thinner and thinner. And the values we cherish offline should also be protected online.
Not terrifying at all with the accent and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to dump on the German people, but they certainly don't have a real recent good track record when it comes to standing before people talking about shutting down people's free speech with a German accent. Yeah, it just doesn't work.
That's been their position, and they being the liberal world order since World War II is, they looked back at the rise of the Nazis and the Holocaust and everything. And their conclusion was that there was too much free speech, that the Nazis were able to organize because people could write books and pamphlets and say things without being censored. And ever since, there's been a push to censor anything that they consider will bring about the next Nazi party. And of course, in their eyes, we're all the next Hitler. So it's they believe that they have a moral responsibility to shut down speech that they disagree with, that challenges their hegemony.
Yeah, so much so that Gavin Newsom is out there crowing about it. This guy, I just can't stand watching this guy. Here he is signing some bills off the cuff because he's some sort of. Just watch this clip.
There are a lot of deepfakes out there. There's not a lot of disclosure. There's not a lot of labeling. So among the many AI bills that are on the desk are 3 specific election-related bills.
And then if you want to sign some laws?
And I don't know. I just thought, why waste your time with a politician unless they're going to do something for you?
There's 2 are signed?
And
And 3 are signs.
And this is now official. That is now injunctive relief if you do any of those deep fake election misrepresentations. So that's how easy it is to govern.
Of course, it's easy to govern in California. It's a one-party state.
Yeah, exactly. And when you act like a dictator and a tyrant, where you're just signing away people's lives because you think parody and deep fakes deserve jail time. I mean, that's what's going on over there, right, Josh? This is the new law over there.
Yeah, this thing it's unclear if this will stand legally, but you notice that they forget that there's such a thing as parody, right? Now, they use all their scary words, deep fake, right? Like and literally there was a video this week of Gavin Newsom and somebody used AI to make him say something ridiculous, but only a fool even thinks that's it's clearly parody to the degree that it's not going to affect anything. But they hate it, right? They hate being mocked, which we should do a lot more of. And so they have to block all these bills. And I think they're just building kind of like a legal precedent to go after. They just want to go after any free speech platform there is. And so they'll say like, oh, look, there's, their favorite words, misinformation and disinformation and deep fakes over on that platform. And so they probably work for the Russians and they should all be jailed. And don't worry, everybody. That's the actual threat to democracy.
Yeah. And this was largely in response to a video put out by Mr. Reagan, the YouTuber, who took Kamala Harris's one of her campaign videos, I guess, and had some fun with it. So I think we can share a little bit of that just to remind people of what Gavin was trying to deter.
I, Kamala Harris, and your Democrat candidate for president, because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility of the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me.
I mean, that's obviously parody because she doesn't say those things out loud, even though she believes it.
Yeah, all true in a joking way.
Right.
We here in Idaho, we had a bill, a Democrat legislator proposed a similar bill to shut down deep fakes and AI generated parodies, unless they were obviously clearly marked. Who knows what that would exactly mean. And so we had a little bit of a debate here about it. And it got me thinking that I wonder what are the ulterior motives here? Could they take a video of Trump that's real and say, no, that's a deep fake and get it scrubbed from the internet? And on the other hand, could they take a video of, say, Kamala saying something embarrassing and saying, no, that's a deep fake? Like the recent video where she was interviewed when she was still Mayor Willie Brown's side piece. So I think it's, like you said, Matt, I think it's just a pretext to lay the foundation for a lot more censorship.
Yeah, and does this affect people who are live on television and say misinformation or mistruths, like the Very Fine People hoax, or one of the 24 other hoaxes that they keep repeating over and over again? I mean, who is going to put Kamala Harris in jail for talking about how Trump wants that there's going to be a bloodbath in this country? In a way that was totally out of context. I mean, does this law cover that?
We're kind of like, I feel like we're past the point where Matt, these are fair questions that you have, but we're past that point, right? They haven't ever really enforced the stuff on themselves.
Right.
And if in the case that Kamala wins, I mean, kiss it goodbye. It's going to completely fall apart. They will use the law unfairly against all of their opposition. And that just includes anyone that calls them out on being dumb.
Yeah. And that's all you really need to do. I mean, nobody has to manipulate a lot of Kamala's videos,
Right.
You can just
play them.
You can just play them. Just play them. So, and we're going to continue to do that, folks. We are going to continue to do that. We want to show you guys some where we've landed most recently. Instagram If you are on Instagram, check this out. Things are blowing up over there on Instagram. We got the stories, we got the highlights, we've got the clips, everything in that feed. People love their Instagram. They love just swiping through late at night, early in the morning, middle of the day. Doesn't matter when. You got to log in if you want to keep going. Just a quick tip for you. So go over to our Instagram, follow WorldNet Daily over on Instagram, and you can, if you want to pull your phone out, you can scan that QR code. It is at WorldNet Daily. And we just got up there, right? Y'all just started
growing that
recently,
channel.
right?
And Matt, I would say I'm going to keep this up for folks to click that QR code. But what's going on over there is it's being curated to cover obviously news in story form, but also, there's big news happening on the pop culture side that will cross over into politics, like what's happening to Puff Daddy, starting to look like a different form of Epstein, and all of that's being covered over there in a more like a more pop culture entertainment style. But you're going to love it. There's a lot of great stuff out. We recommend that you, of course, in our own interest, like and subscribe. Go over there and follow us. You'll love what's being shown over there, and what kind of content's being created. And then I have to say that leads me directly to our folks at Rumble, who we love. So
yes,
on this episode alone today, many of the things we talked about, including Trump assassination, these are not approved words over on YouTube. So we take hits on our YouTube stream, which we simultaneously stream to YouTube constantly for just speaking. Well, I guess what they would say is the misinformation, but there's no such thing. We're just saying the truth. So we'd love you to go subscribe, like, and follow over at Rumble. That's super important. We're trying to grow that audience. It is growing, and we appreciate you following us. And of course, Telegram. We're over on Telegram too. We want to be everywhere, right? We want to be on enough platforms that, when the censorship arrives in a more aggressive form, and anyone will tell you it's not backed off. It's only increased. So, we need to get our information from the places that we can still get connected to. That would include our website, worldnetdaily.com. And go over there, sign up. If you put in your email, we'll be sending you alerts about the show, about all the important articles that we're covering over there. So, yes. And of course, we always appreciate you watching.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for that beautiful rundown, Josh. And Brian, thanks for joining us on the Friday show. Where can people follow you and your good work?
Follow me on X or Twitter, as long as it lasts, at Gem State Brian. That's Gem State for the beautiful Idaho. Find my other work over at gemstatechronicle.com.
Fantastic. All right, folks. Well, I'm Matt Edwards, and on behalf of Josh and Brian here, we thank you for watching, and God bless. See you Monday.